Towards the end of the first chapter, we find that Arjuna, who has a good look at all the warriors of his side and his opponent's side, faces an ethical dilemma. He is torn between his Kshatriya duty and his bondage towards his near and dear ones. So, unable to cope with this situation, Arjuna puts his Gandiva aside and he decides not to fight the battle. On seeing a totally dejected Arjuna, Sri Krishna begins to motivate Arjuna. The second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, called Sankhya Yoga, which begins in this context, is the most important chapter of Gita because it encapsulates or condenses the entire teachings of Gita. We can divide the Adhyaya or chapter 2 into 5 sections while summarizing and revisiting the key teachings. First section, Arjuna surrenders to the Lord. Second one, Sankhya Yoga. Third, Kshatriya Dharma. Fourth, Buddhi Yoga. And fifth, characteristics of a Sthita Prajna or a saintly person. In the beginning of the second chapter, Arjuna surrenders to Krishna as a disciple, and in all humility he requests his Guru Sri Krishna to guide and instruct him the way forward. Sri Krishna reminds Arjuna of his Kshatriya lineage, his physical prowess, and he tells him that it's not befitting of a warrior of his caliber to do so. And he mildly admonishes Arjuna for his timidity. But Arjuna still continues to insist that he cannot bear the very thought of directing the sharp arrows at his gurus and relatives and fight them. Arjuna, who is overcome by delusion, he confesses in all humility that I am suffering from Karpanya doshaha and I am Dharma sammoda chetaha. That is, he tells that I have no clarity on what my Dharma is. So with this mindset, Arjuna, in all humility, he surrenders to Lord Krishna as a Shishya, as a disciple, and he asks him to instruct him the way forward. So addressing Arjuna's dilemma, addressing the various problems that he faces, Sri Krishna imparts the greatest knowledge of Sankhya Yoga to Arjuna. In the middle of the Kurukshetra battlefield, wearing a smile on his face, Sri Krishna tells Arjuna that you are mourning and lamenting for something that is not worthy of grief. And further, he also tells him that wise people do not mourn for the living or dead. Shri Krishna tells Arjuna, Tvam ashocyan anvashochaha. That is, you mourn for those persons who are not worthy of grief. And prajnavadam cha bhashate. You speak like a pandit. Panditaha gatasoon agatasoon cha na anushochanti. Wise people, they do not grieve for gatasoon, the dead, and agatasoon, people who are alive. And further, Shri Krishna tells that yata naraha jirnani vasamsi vihaya. That is, just as a person, he shreds off or he throws away his old clothes and he puts on new clothes. Aparani navani grihnati. That is, he puts on new clothes. Tada, likewise, dehi jirnani sharirani vihaya anyani navani samyati. So the Atma throws away its worn out bodies and takes on new bodies. So no person grieves when he casts off his old clothes and he puts on new ones. Likewise, for the Atma also, death is just a rejection of an worn out, old or a decayed body, and birth is just adopting a new one. And hence Arjuna, therefore there is no cause of any grief. Further, Shri Krishna tells Arjuna that the Atma is indestructible. It cannot be pierced by an arrow, and also wind, water or fire, they cannot cause any harm to the Atma. It is unchangeable, it is indestructible, and it is eternal. The Atma's immortality is one of the most profound teachings in Sankhya Yoga. It is a physical body that undergoes change. It goes through various stages like childhood, youth, old age and death. The Atma is immortal. Death is inevitable for the physical body. So using the Sankhya philosophy, Shri Krishna establishes that Arjuna's arrows can never kill the Atma and his near and dear ones. So there is no need for Arjuna to grieve or be confused on this account. So the concept that the Atma is immortal is very vital for understanding the broader perspective on life and death. To reassure Arjuna, Shri Krishna once again tells that the Atma neither kills nor can it be killed, as it is eternal and unaffected by birth or death. Another important aspect of Sankhya Yoga is the concept of detachment. Shri Krishna asks Arjuna to tolerate the pair of opposites, that is happiness and sorrow, heat and cold, success and defeat. So these are temporary. Only those who are not affected by these are eligible for liberation. And Krishna tells Arjuna to get ready to fight without any attachment to the outcome. Now, on his concluding note on Atma, Krishna has given an elaborate explanation about the various eternal characteristics of Atma. In conclusion, Krishna says that the Atma is something so amazing that is not understood by us. And then Shri Krishna talks about the Kshatriya duty. So here Kshatriya Dharma is explained to us from a Sankhya perspective. Shri Krishna reminds Arjuna of his Kshatriya Dharma, and he tells why it is so important for him to perform it, as it's a virtuous act. And he tells Arjuna that you need to fight to fulfill your social responsibilities and uphold your righteousness. Further, the Lord tells that fortunate are those Kshatriyas who get an opportunity to fight a Dharma Yuddha, like the Kurukshetra war, that would open the gateway to heavens. And Shri Krishna also warns Arjuna of neglecting his duty, for this would bring loss of reputation, dishonor, and the future generation would see Arjuna as a fallen hero. People will speak of his infamy and dishonor, and that for a Kshatriya is like death. Fighting the battle, on the other hand, would be a win-win situation for Arjuna, as victory would bring him rewards like kingdom, and Veeragati, that is death, would take him to heaven. So the Lord motivates Arjuna in every possible way to fight the war. Krishna advises Arjuna to fight with determination and without any attachment on the results, because when Arjuna fights the war without an attachment on the results, then he would incur no sin. Fourth section, Buddhi Yoga. So under this section, Shri Krishna first explains the doctrine of karma, that is doing one's duty without any attachment. So we have the famous shloka here, Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phalaheturbuhu ma te sangostva karmani te karmani eva adhikaraha. That is, you have a right, oh Arjuna, you have a right, adhikara, over the prescribed duties only. Ma phaleshu kadachana. Ma phaleshu kadachana. At any time you should not be interested in the outcome of the duties that you do. Karma phalahetuhu ma buhu. The fruits of action should not be the cause of your motive. Te akarmani sangaha ma astu. Sangaha means attachment, that is bondage or attachment. So your bondage or attachment should not lead to akarmani, that is, should not lead to inaction. So in this shloka, Shri Krishna clearly tells that a karma yogi, while performing his duties, must be free from the desire or the fruits of work. Absolute concentration is possible only when a person's thoughts are only focused on duty and not on the fruits of action. Particularly in the realm of spirituality, nishkama karma, that is duty without desire, can alone lead to self-realization. By doing one's duty without attachment, one is free from bondage of work, and thereafter he attains liberation. Also, absolute focus on work, that is that single-minded determination towards one objective, which Sri Krishna calls vyavasayatmika buddhi. So only people who are focused on one goal, they are resolute and they move towards self-realization. Sri Krishna also warns against too much of indulgence on sensual pleasures and focus on materialistic objects. He also condemns those Pandits who recommend elaborate, bombastic rituals stated in the Karma Kanda of Vedas to achieve material objects. And Sri Krishna also recommends devotional service to him, that is to Sri Krishna. And he tells that this frees one from the cycle of birth and death and brings divine consciousness. And the last or the fifth section, Shri Krishna describes who a Sthita Prajna is. Arjuna poses a question, Sthita Prajnasya ka bhasha. what is the definition, what is the paribhasha of a sthita prajna, a saintly person? In reply to this question, Shri Krishna tells that a saintly person is one who has given up all his desires and he's happy in supreme bliss in the self, and meditating on the supreme. And he is also not affected by happiness or desires, attachment, fear, and anger. And Sita Prajna is a person. Prajna is mind, intellect. So he is a person whose mind is steady because of these qualities that he has. And Shri Krishna also tells us how to keep one's mind steady. He tells that like how a tortoise withdraws all its limbs when it faces a threat, likewise one should withdraw all the senses from the sense objects. In the 62nd and 63rd shlokas of chapter 2, Shri Krishna explains the drastic consequences of letting the mind dwell only on material objects. So what happens when one contemplates on sense objects? It leads to attachment towards those sense objects, and attachment results in desire. That is, you get a feeling that without these material objects my life would not move on. And once you have desire, that causes anger. That is, if you do not get what you want, then you become angry, and anger results in sammoha, that is delusion, and delusion causes smriti vibramaha, and that is loss of memory, and that in turn leads to destruction of intellect, that is buddhinashaha. And buddhinashaha, after buddhinashaha, a person eventually falls, there is decline. So this is also called the ladder of fall. So in conclusion, who is the sthita prajna? That Shri Krishna explains in the 59th shloka. Vinivartante niraharasya dehinah rasavarjam rasopyasya haram dishtva nivartate. So an embodied soul may restrict one from the sense enjoyment, from the various sense objects. So restraining the senses is one important step, but the direct realization of perception of Paramatma is necessary. Only then all tendencies or vasanas that can trigger desire would go away. So in this shloka, Shri Krishna tells that a sthita prajna is one person who has reached a stage of spirituality where there are no vasanas, and hence the possibility of any reversal or decline, where you go back to the stage of craving for desires, that absolutely does not exist. So having completed the second chapter, we would next move to the third chapter, which is Karma Yoga. In this third chapter, Shri Krishna emphasizes on the importance of the performance of duty in a detached way, according to both the Jnana Yoga and the Karma Yoga. And here he also talks about the necessity of performing sacrifices, the necessity for action, that is, he condemns inaction, action for everyone, even for the God himself. And then he also talks about the marks of the wise and the unwise, and importance of performing action without any attraction and repulsion, and also he talks about how to overcome desire.